Welcome back to CityLine. We are in our final fabulous segment, zooming from my kitchen. And with me right now, I have an individual who makes her home in one of my favorite organizations. They are a boutique organization, and you will know them as the Judson Family Justice Center. Please join me in welcoming Abby McLean. She is the Assistant Director of the Judson Family Justice Center. Hello, Miss Abby.
Hello, thank you so much for having us on today.
Oh, sweetie, it is my pleasure. As you know, I love this center. I love their philosophy, their outreach, and their embrace of our community in terms of trying to put themselves out of business by preventing domestic violence and having the answers in just one stop. It is an amazing concept, and I can't sing your praises enough.
Thank you.
So let's talk about this. Speaking of services, Abby, how are you providing services at this time during the shelter in place?
Yeah, so we are fortunate that we had the capacity to make sure we could transition all of our services to remote care. So right now we're answering the domestic violence helpline remotely. The advocates are also providing in-depth and continued care to their current caseload and to new clients who need that support, new survivors who are going to be coming forward and needing that support. And then we beefed up our social media from direct feedback from survivors saying we need more ways to get information. And then we are also doing a lot of care via email, if that's the way that's the safest and most accessible for people. And we're really working very closely with the clerk's office to make sure that people are still able to file remotely for emergency orders and get that process moving still.
Oh, that's amazing, because you triggered that in the back of my mind that, oh my gosh, yes, the court systems are moving at a much slower pace than they used to. And what does that mean for our clients that are seeking restraining orders and such? So what changes in need have you seen? Because we hear in the media the uptick of domestic violence and also child abuse. What are you seeing from your end?
So abuse is about power and control. And right now what we're seeing is people are isolated at home 24/7 with the people who are causing them harm. And that is really creating a whole new dynamic and level of control that is going on in these situations. So what we're seeing is that survivors are really needing more dynamic ways to get information because they can't, one, we can't physically leave and go somewhere. And two, the person is in their home constantly. So their ability to reach out is going to look really different. And so what we're seeing is that people need a lot more dynamic ways to get information and care. And so that's something that we have been really pushing and working to make sure that all these different channels are firing on all cylinders to make sure people can get access and care, even when they're in a situation where they're with the perpetrator 24/7.
Absolutely. So based on that, I have seen some very interesting social media messages going on. And one of them is, if you are experiencing domestic violence or abuse, just email me or just text me or private message me or send me a symbol. What kind of outreach are you seeing and what are you embracing?
Yeah, so the Family Justice Center has a really robust outreach program already. One of the things we do is we partner with local law enforcement and we call out on their police reports to survivors who have reached out to law enforcement for support. So we are continuing to do that. So we're continuing to reach out to people saying, you called for help. What does help look like for you? We are also teamed up with a lot of other programs in the community to develop an outreach flyer that we could put up in grocery stores and other places where people are still going. So we know one of the only spaces that a lot of people are able to go right now is the stores. So we've done outreach to stores throughout the county to see if they would hang up these flyers. And myself and one of our other program staff spent last week going out to stores in the communities and handing out the flyers, posting them on community boards, making sure that people know that help is still available. Because that's a really big thing. A lot of people don't know that these agencies are still open and operating. So a whole team of us got together and we developed this flyer with all of our numbers on it, with all of our logos, and we've been putting them up all throughout the county. And we've also been really pushing a lot of stuff on social media. I can't stress that enough. Because one of the things somebody said to us recently was, I might not have had the time to call somebody, but I might have had the time to go in the bathroom and check Facebook. So we're really pushing a ton of information on social media as well as a form of outreach.
Abby, when we get done with this, will you send me,
Yeah.
I'll give you an email, that flyer, because I want to post it on my Facebook page nonstop in case somebody sees that. Perfect. You have a program called the Voices Committee. I love that name. How is it informing you about the work you're doing with survivors at this time?
Yeah, so the Voices Committee is a committee of survivors who have gone through services in our community. And it's really meant to create a space where survivors can help inform the care and services that are happening. So we have those meetings monthly, and we were really fortunate that we've been able to continue those meetings right now. And we've actually switched them to every 2 weeks because we want to be having these conversations more often to get more feedback to make sure that what we're doing is truly survivor focused and really is meeting the needs. So what we've been doing is sharing with them the work and how we're doing it. And then they have been giving us feedback on things that they think would be helpful. So that story that somebody said, I wouldn't have been able to call, but I might have been able to go to the bathroom. That was a direct story from our survivors in Voices. And then they also, one of the things they've done is they are developing letters, and it's a new project called From Survivors to Survivors. And they're developing letters, and we're posting those so that if somebody is out in the community and just needs to hear from another survivor right now, because a lot of support groups aren't happening, just to have that peer support, they're trying to make sure that that peer support is still happening in some fashion. So it's really the ability for us to make sure that our work is using and taking into account the priorities and the voices of the people we worked with.
Oh, boy, that is innovation with a capital I, my dear. Are there any other program developments that you have done to better serve survivors that we want to talk about while we are remotely sheltering in place?
Well, if you have time tomorrow at 1 p.m., we are going to be doing our art group live. So we partner with the Korean Women's Association, their elder abuse specialist who's housed down here at the Family Justice Center. She does art groups every month, therapeutic art groups for people. And she is going to be providing these art groups live on our Facebook page. The stuff you need to do it, she posted that today. So you can get on there and see what are the supplies you need. She's really focusing on, she spent the last few weeks thinking about what are things that people have in their house. So things like old nail polish and a bottle, right? So things like that. She's making sure that we have art projects that we can do together with her from the supplies we have in our homes. And we're really excited about that. We think that's going to be a really fun way to get people engaged and just make sure that we are connecting with people in a lot of different ways.
Oh, Abby, that is such a great idea. I have seen such an uptick in groups like that on the internet. One of my favorite ones is there is a chef in New York called Christina Tosi, and she makes these beautiful baked goods. And every day she shows you what she has in her kitchen and then just goes with it. And you have to match it. I am so glad that you have taken a page out of that or inspired Christina. Either way, it's good news. Abby, around me, I have families. I'm in a neighborhood full of beautiful children. And oftentimes I think if somebody was in an abusive relationship, how could their family and friends support them? And what would we say to them? So now that I have the expert in front of me, how do I answer those questions? How do I support them? And then what do I tell the person who is in that abusive relationship?
So a few years back, we developed some materials around friends and family member outreach. So it's called 10 Ways How, and you can find that on our website. And it talks about 10 low barrier ways that a friend or family member can support a loved one. And all of those ways hold true right now. And I think one of the biggest ones is to believe them, let them know that the abuse is not their fault. And then this is a big one, is ask them, what would be helpful for you right now?
Say that again, Abby.
What would be helpful for you right now? Because survivors are experts in their experience. And they might, as a friend or family member, we might look at a situation and say, this thing would be helpful. But when you ask somebody and you can truly get their feedback, you are going to give them support that is really meaningful, and you are going to open that door that they are more likely to reach out to you in the future to address this.
I love that. I wrote that down, and I'm going to use that when the time is right, if it comes up in my neighborhood. If you could tell a survivor, Abby, one thing right now, what would you tell them?
You are not alone. And I think that that is the biggest thing we need to be communicating to people right now. The messaging of staying home, staying safe can feel really isolating. It's not a safe place for everybody. And when we're told over and over and over again, that's a safe place, you need to do this, it makes you feel more and more alone. And so I think that that would be the thing I'd want to communicate to any survivor out there, is that you are not alone. There's help available. We want to work with you now or whenever you can access us. We want to be here and we want to work with you.
And I know that you, the Crystal Judson Family Justice Center, is known for being that, I've used this phrase before, that Nordstrom's one-stop shop. And you are still that. It's just remotely.
Yeah, we're still finding ways to do that, just in a very different setting.
So we have been showing some information while we've been talking, but Abby, for those people who maybe just zoomed on and have to zoom off real quick, how can someone reach you or your services?
So they can contact the Domestic Violence Helpline. That number is 253-798-4166. They can email us at Family Justice Center at piercecountywashington.gov, piercecountywa.gov, or they can get on Facebook and message us that way, whatever is the best way for somebody to reach us.
And last question, Abby, in this last 30 seconds, do you have, if someone were to call, would somebody pick up?
Yes, so we have advocates answering the lines Monday through Friday during our regular business hours. After hours, we try to connect people with the National Domestic Violence Hotline.
Okay. Abby, I cannot say thank you enough to you and to your team for what you do for the safety and well-being of the city of Tacoma and beyond. All of you are so amazing, and I can't thank you enough for being here today. And please take care of you and your beautiful family so you can continue to take care of us. And I want you back in my kitchen sooner than later, okay?
Thank you. I'd love to be.